You're listening to Release Your Resistance with Bex Beltran, episode 124. Welcome to Release Your Resistance. This is Bex. The only reason why any of us don't have what we want in life is because of our own resistance. Right now, I'm learning how to recognize and release my resistance, and this podcast tells you how you can release your resistance so that you can live the exact life that you want. Let's get started. Hello, I hope you are doing great. I'm so excited to share today's episode with you. It is a little bit different. The backstory is that at the end of last year, I decided that I would host a workshop 12 months or 12 workshops in 12 months of 2023. So here we are in May, and tonight, on the day here that I'm recording this, I'm getting ready to host the 5th workshop, which is called Find Your Purpose. And as I've been hosting these different workshops throughout the last 4 months, I've been experimenting with different ways to prepare and deliver and just how I wanted to put these together. And for this month's, the Find Your Purpose workshop, I decided to pre-record a draft or like a dress rehearsal. So it's an audio and visual or video version as part of my preparation process. And then I thought, why don't I turn this pre-play instead of a replay into a podcast episode? So in about 40 minutes, I'm heading over to where the in-person version of the workshop is, and I'll be joining everyone who is joining from Zoom, and we'll have that workshop tonight, and if I remember, I'll record it so that we actually have a recording of the actual workshop. But in the meantime, here is the pre-play of the workshop that I will be delivering in about an hour and a half, or maybe just an hour. So I am curious what you think about it, if you like this style of podcast episode, if you have other suggestions or ideas, whatever it is, let me know. But here is the pre-play recording of the Find Your Purpose workshop. Enjoy. Let's talk about how you can find your purpose. My name is Bex Beltran. I am a coach, a podcaster, and I love journaling. And you can find more information about me and what I do at my website at bexb.org. And if you want to find more information specifically about this topic, you can go to bexb.org/purpose. So the concepts of today's discussion are, what is purpose? It's life is the story that you tell yourself. It's knowing that you can decide who you want to be and, very importantly, who you don't want to be. And I'm going to invite you to consider creating an intentional manifesto for yourself. First thing I want you to think about is, what is purpose? When I say find your purpose, and when you think about what is my purpose, what is that thing that you're finding or wondering about? Another way to think about this is, if you are trying to explain the word purpose or what you mean when you say purpose to someone who doesn't have that word or concept in their native language, how would you describe it? Would it be your drive? Would it be what gets you up out of bed every morning? Why you continue? What motivates you? I'm curious. So think about that for a moment. If you had to describe purpose to someone else, and maybe now for the first time to yourself, what do you mean by that? So what I want to suggest is that we might think of purpose in these terms, and I'm going to say it's not necessarily any of these. It doesn't have to be a calling. It might be, but that creates a lot of pressure and creates a lot of expectation. And if you think of your purpose as a divine calling or some type of calling from the universe, that might put a lot of weight on it. It certainly doesn't have to be an occupation. It might be. So some people, their purpose aligns with their occupation or their career aligns with their purpose. But I would say most people, that's not a complete parallel path. There might be a little bit of aligning or a little bit of overlap, but I don't think most people's career or occupation or how they spend their time or how they earn their money needs to necessarily be part of your purpose or lead to a purpose or any of the above. If it does, that's great. But again, thinking that it has to can create a lot of expectation and then a lot of judgment and maybe some doubt. So let's just disconnect those two words. Purpose is not necessarily what you do as your occupation. Purpose doesn't need to be noble. It doesn't need to be appreciated or revered by others. Purpose is what you care about, what lights you up, what sparks in you. And if you share it with other people and make it part of your outward identity, great. If it's just something that you know internally, it's just a quiet knowing, great. So if other people revere you for it and applaud you for it, okay. But if they don't know about it or they don't care about it, that is fine too. It's not about others. It's really only about you and what you think. And then another misconception is that your purpose is something that is part of you for your entire life. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, we know of and we hear of people who find their purpose or find their passion or their talent or whatever else you want to put in that sentence at an early age. It is their calling. They make an occupation about it. Other people applaud them for it. And that's what they do their whole lives. I think that is more of an outlier than a consistent thing amongst most people. I think your purpose can be one thing or more than one thing at a certain part of your life. And then as you evolve and grow, you might find other purposes. You might find a different calling. You might find a different occupation. So I don't think this idea of purpose, first of all, is singular, nor is it lifelong. I think you can have many purposes at many different times throughout your life. And your life really is the story that you tell yourself. And this sentence is so important because the word story is in there. It's not a fact. It's not an absolute truth. It is literally a collection of thoughts that you think, and therefore it is a story. And it's what you tell yourself. It's not what your parents tell you. It's not what society tells you. It's not what your government tells you. It's what you repeatedly tell yourself. And I just think this sentence, life is the story you tell yourself, is so liberating because think about where you are right now in your life, what you're doing, what you know, what your experiences have been, and then contrast that or compare that to an earlier point in your life when you didn't have the experiences that you have now, when you didn't know or understand or realize what you now know. And if you compare those two parts of your life and you go back, let's say maybe when you were 18 years old, or maybe when you were 15 years old, and you think, wow, if I knew then at that age or at that point of my life, what I know now, what I have since realized and learned and experienced, I would do things differently. So let's answer that question. If you did know then what you do know now, what would you do differently? So all these ideas might pop up for you. Maybe for some people, they might say, oh, well, I would save money, or I would spend more time with my family, or I would follow the things that light me up instead of doing the things that people tell me to do. Whatever those sentences are for you, whatever those ideas are that you would do differently, apply all that wisdom and experience and perspective to yourself today. Even though we can't necessarily go back to when we were 18 or 20 or 15 and make different choices and live a different life, we can use all of our wisdom and experience and apply it right now to our life and make different choices and go in a different direction today if we don't like exactly where we are right now. You get to decide who you want to be. So look at your life right now. Look at the way it is. Who decided where you would work? Who decided where you would live? Who decided who you would be, right? It again, many of us were maybe set on a default path, society or our parents or our religion or a book or a novel or a movie told us this is the way we're supposed to show up. This is the way we're supposed to be. This is how we're supposed to dress. This is what we're supposed to like and want. This is a perfect time to reevaluate all those decisions. And you can start today and think, well, who do I want to be now with this openness and with this awareness and with this freedom? Who do I want to be? So you can ask yourself, what do you currently have in your life that you don't want? I mean, this opens up so many possibilities. If there's something that you are currently doing or experiencing or continuing or owning or wishing for or living with that you don't want, decide if you have any flexibility there. Decide if there's any decisions to be made there that you can let go of it, change it, pivot, start fresh. There's so many options here. And you can find out what you want by being curious and exploratory. So many times, people who are looking to find a purpose, find some direction in their life, get out of feeling stuck. Oftentimes, part of the feeling stuck is that they don't know what they want. They know they don't want what they have. They know they're not completely satisfied or delighted with their current life and their current choices. But how to change if they don't know what they would rather have? So this is an invitation to be curious and exploratory, not to be judgmental, not to be shut down or closed off. And so this is your chance to just let your mind open and look around and consider the possibilities, consider the options, notice what is available, notice what other people are doing, notice what you would like to do. Just open your mind in a curious, non-judgmental, non-closed off way. And this is a chance to be exploratory in the sense of you might take one step in this direction and then turn around and go in a different direction. You might look in that corner and decide not to continue in that corner and take a different path instead. So just imagine yourself being so open-minded and so curious and exploratory. And then you can get closer to finding your purpose. I want to introduce the idea of sparks and smothers. If you're like me, throughout your life, there have been some little sparks, some little ideas that kind of presented themselves in your mind, either from your own mind or through watching a movie or reading a book or overhearing a conversation or being in a conversation or noticing someone. There's been some kind of a little spark like, that would be fun. I like that. That would be interesting. I wonder what it would be like to do that or have that or go there or live there or try that. So that's like a little spark. And sometimes those sparks just stay there as just a little spark. It's just kind of fun to imagine or daydream or think about. And sometimes those sparks actually get fanned. You know, you fan the flame and it grows and it actually does kind of light you up and it warms you up and you take action towards it. And maybe you even make decisions and invest in whatever that little spark is. So I want you to think about right now, what is sparking your interest? Have you had any little nudge lately? Have you got any little inspiration? There's 3 time periods I want you to think about. What sparks have you noticed? Now, like within the last 24 to 48 hours, maybe in this month, what has been a little spark for you? Lately, like within the last, maybe this year, maybe the last couple of months. And then what is a spark that keeps showing up for you in different ways at different times that your mind keeps on reintroducing, even though you've already shut it down or even though you tried it once and it didn't work? So what spark keeps reigniting and comes back? So this might be a good time to pause and write down some of these little sparks that you've noticed throughout your life, either recently, lately, or always, continuously. Then I also want you to think about what smothers that spark. Oh, this is a tough one, right? So you get the idea, you think, oh, that would be interesting, or oh, I wonder what it would be like to do that, or wear that, or try that, or taste that, or make that. What reality, and this is in quotes, or what quote unquote reasons shut that spark down, smother that spark? It keeps you from considering the spark. So if you have had a spark today or yesterday or this week, and then some reality set in and said, I couldn't afford that, or I would never do that, or I'm too old for that. That's the smothering. That's what smothers the spark. So think about what sentences have smothered some of your sparks when you were much, much younger and you get a little spark like, oh, I would love if I could live my life in this way. And then some thought, some sentence smothered that spark. You can't afford that. People wouldn't like it if you did that. No, that's not how that's not what people in your position do. Whatever the sentences that are that smother the spark, let's take notice of those, because that smothering is resistance. Your brain is very logical and rational, and it tells you that no, it's just being realistic. It's just being practical. It's just giving you the honest reasons. But the true reason that that spark has shown up for you is because it is interesting for you. You are curious about it. You might want to explore it. And just because you explore a spark doesn't mean you have to sign up for it. It doesn't mean you have to promise that you will fan the flames of that spark for the rest of your life. It just means you have to be curious and explore it to see if you want to go further with it. And once you have noticed and been curious and been, explored your sparks and been interested in, and you'll do this exercise that I'm about to suggest to you, then you can create your own intentional manifesto, because you get to decide how you introduce yourself, both to yourself and to others. So by having an intentional manifesto, it's like something that you are stating outwardly and inwardly. It's how you are presenting yourself and showing up and being in this world. And it's something that you believe in because you came up with it intentionally, instead of letting the world tell you how you had to be or how you should be or what's the best way to be. So that's what I'm going to suggest that you do, is write yourself an intentional manifesto and then live by that manifesto for as long as you like it, as long as it still matches your intention. And as you grow and as you change, maybe you will change your intentions. Maybe your manifesto will evolve and grow with you. That's great, because you are not writing any of this in stone. You can metaphorically write your manifesto in pencil. And then as you learn and as you grow and as you're curious and as you explore, you can change it. You don't have to decide your entire life's plan right now. You don't have to have it all figured out with every step along the path. You can just think of what might be the next thing I might want to do, and then go in that direction. This is your life. Your life. So you get to develop your own character. I love to make the metaphor of thinking of your life as a movie. So what if there was a movie about your life? Some people, that sentence or that question creates a lot of drama and anxiety, because they think, oh, I would hate that. Don't make a movie about my life. It's not good enough. It's boring. I'm this, I'm that. Okay, you get to decide. You get to develop your own character. You decide on the wardrobes, the scenes, the props, and the storyline for your life. So isn't that fun to think about? If your life was a movie, what would the plot be? What would be the scenes, the first act, the second act, the third act? What would the hero's journey look like? How would you overcome your trials and tribulations and obstacles? And as you're thinking of your life as a movie, I want you to let this be a resistance-free zone. So any of those smothering thoughts that might say, oh, you're too old for that, or you could never do that, or people don't really appreciate that, or this doesn't even make sense. No, we're not going to let any resistance in while you're thinking of your life as a movie. You're just going to let yourself be curious and exploratory and let yourself come up with different ideas and different possibilities that spark something in you and make you want to go further in that direction. So in order to do this, you can think, because you're thinking of yourself as a character in the movie, you can answer character development questions about your future self. Once you've answered those questions, that will also help you in writing your manifesto. And then that can be your purpose. So, do you see how I'm not saying your purpose should be a calling or an occupation, and it doesn't have to be a lifelong quest? It's really you living the life of the character yourself that you want to develop. That can be your full purpose. And you get to believe that you are the director of your own movie. There is this exercise. I'm just going to give you a mini version of it right now, but you can make a much longer version that will really give you so much more insight. And this is the Find Your Purpose exercise. It's like a character development exercise. If you were writing a character for a book or a movie, you would think about, who is this character? How do I want this person to be? How do I want them to show up? What do I want them to like and dislike, and where would they live, and what would they do, and how would they be? All of those kind of questions. You can use character development questions like that a writer uses, and you can just compile a whole list of those questions. I have a mini list for you. And then there's a notebook as well that has so many questions. So you go through and you answer all the questions. You just answer it from your future self without any resistance. You just let your imagination and curiosity and exploration run wild. And then once you have all of those answers, then you can kind of edit and wordsmith and move things around and notice patterns and cross things out. But again, not from a place of resistance, just from a place of refinement while you're still being open and curious and exploratory. So resistance will probably appear. This is kind of a difficult exercise to do if you haven't really let your imagination run wild before, and your resistance wants to save you from disappointment, and your resistance wants you to protect you from the unknown. So somewhere, maybe even right now, as you're hearing me describe it, there's some resistance. Maybe once you get started, you'll think, oh, this is hard. I can't do this. I don't know how. Or maybe once you've written the character development questions out, then you'll think, I can't do this. What was I thinking? Somewhere or many places along the line, resistance will show up. So resistance coaching can help you notice and release your resistance. I am a resistance coach. So if you need a partner through this, I can help you with my month-to-month coaching. My coaching clients meet with me twice a month, and it's $159 per month, and it's month to month. So if we meet for 1 month, that's great. If we meet for 6 months, that's great. If we continue on, that's great. It's up to you how long you want to continue coaching. And you can get more information and schedule some sessions at bexb.org/coaching. Now I want to hear what's coming up for you. What is unclear about what we discussed? Is there any resistance? And what resonates? And what do you think your next step is? If you're ready, there is the character development questions that I have for you on the handout, and then also in the notebook. So you can get all of that information at bexb.org/purpose. You can find the notebook. You can see the handout with the character development questions. You can see the link to coach with me. You can hear some podcast episodes more about this topic. And if you want to connect with me in other ways, I do a journaling and friendship event twice a month, once on Zoom and once in person. So the next one is coming up. And then on the first Thursday of every month, I also lead Pod Club, which is like a book club, except it is just one podcast episode instead of reading a whole book. And then we get together and discuss. And then the next workshop is working on a vision board together. So hopefully you can use some of the answers from today's workshop and character development exercise in creating your vision board next month. And you can get all of the information about my upcoming events at bexb.org/let's meet. Okay, that was the workshop pre-play. I hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to get any of the resources that I mentioned or watch the
a video of this workshop or anything else, you can go to bexb.org/purpose and you can see all the information that I referenced, and you can get some other podcast episodes and just find out more about it. Thank you for listening today. I hope you have a great week. Talk with you later. You know what I'm really good at? Asking questions, then listening to the answer and redirecting you if you didn't answer, then showing you your thoughts from how you answered. That is part of what coaching with me is like. I don't have an agenda for you. I don't think I know better than you. I do believe in you and your capacity. If you tell me what you want for yourself, I believe it. I can see it for you. I can show you the thoughts that are keeping you from getting what you want. Then you can drop those thoughts and go get what you want. Coaching really works. Come to my site at bexb.org/coaching and book a session with me. This has been Release Your Resistance. Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, make sure you're subscribed and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, think about someone who you know who would love this episode and share it with them. There should be a share button on your app if you're listening to this on your phone. If you'd like to continue this conversation one-on-one or in real time, come visit me on my site at bexb.org to see how we can work together.